Welcome to I Wrote That, a podcast where we bring authors and industry experts together to talk about all things books and make the journey to authorship just a little bit easier. My name is Michelle Seguin, and I am the CEO of Next Page Publishing, a hybrid publishing house where we help entrepreneurs write books to grow their businesses. Now, I'm on a mission to help aspiring authors feel like they are in control of the publishing journey and that they are supported by a team of experts who genuinely want the best for them and their books. If you are in the very beginning of your journey, or maybe you have a manuscript that you're finished and you're not sure how to get it out into the world, I encourage you to reach out to us at nextpagepublishing.net. You can schedule your free discovery call and find out how our team of experts can make your journey to being a published author easy, smooth, and successful. Now, without further ado, let's get on to our next amazing guest and make your journey to authorship a little less complicated. I'm very excited today to welcome a fellow publishing guru into the show. Michelle Seguin is a best-selling author of Radical Recovery of Self-Coach and Heal Your Life teacher and coach, specializing in helping adults and teens heal from trauma, loss, chronic pain, and fibromyalgia. Through the healing process, she helps her clients find peace and fulfillment through the creation of strong connections between the body and the mind. Through this process, her clients learn to live larger than life by having the best possible life free of limitations. Welcome, Michelle. How are you doing today?
I am doing great.
It's so good to have you here. I know you and I have connected back and forth on Facebook a little bit here and there, and I've watched your journey because you partnered with one of my mentors in this industry, Nicolette, and your book came out, you hit bestseller. But it was more than that for you. I mean, releasing your book was such an emotional experience for you. You gave me a little bit of insight before we started recording, but I can't even tell me about your book and what it meant to you, because it does go so deep.
My book came to fruition after my son passed away in 2013. And it was really important for me. I knew early on that I wanted to write a book about him. I really wanted the world to know who he is and to know how amazing of a man he was. And so I had initially picked out the title Larger Than Life because that is how he lived his life. He had his life figured out he passed away just after his 23rd birthday, and he had his life figured out. He had a business, he owned his house, him and his wife were expecting their first little girl. And in just the blink of an eye, he was gone. And so the journey after that was just so devastating and so hard to understand. He hadn't been sick. What happened was he got a stomach ache and they found a tumor in his abdomen. And 5 weeks later, he passed away. There was no prep for it. Life was amazing. And then all of a sudden, he was gone. That, as a parent, sent me spiraling into a level of grief that I did not know could exist. You really have to work through things. And like I said, I knew I wanted to write his story. I wanted everyone to know who he was. And I picked the title, but I really didn't know how it tied to everything. Well, this year, 2023, is been 10 years since my son passed away. And I came into 2023 and I just really felt like, with all of the healing work I've done the last few years, that I was ready to tell his story. I was ready to tell my story. And so I sat down and, started putting pen to paper, and it was amazing how quickly everything flowed out of me. I had started my book back in 2020 and I wrote bits and pieces of it, but there was just something missing. Like I said, it really evolved around the title. It evolved around, it was so important to me. I was so scared to let him down. It had to have this presence to it that I felt inside, but I didn't know how to put that to paper initially. Mm-hmm. And as I came out of 2023 or 2022 with all of the healing I've done, I was just like, okay, the story is in me. It's ready. I can tie it all together. And so I sat down and started writing, and it was just such a surreal experience. The words just flowed out of me. He was obviously standing right there with me the whole time, encouraging me and making sure that I was feeling safe and strong to be able to write that all out. It added to my healing journey. It really did. There was areas that as I started to write about it, I was like, ooh, I haven't done any work around this yet. And really just honoring that and, allowing myself to stop and feel those emotions, let those emotions come up and really move past them and continue on. And I released the book on his birthday, June 28th, and it far exceeded anything I could have ever dreamed about. I really, initially the larger than life, he lived larger than life, but I was like, how does that pertain to me? Like, I didn't understand, like, how was I going to draw all of that together? But like I said, by the end of 2022, I knew that he was there. He's been there showing me how to live again, showing me that it's okay to live again, to live life to the fullest. He wouldn't want me being so broken the rest of my life. And unfortunately, there's a lot of moms out there who never get to experience what I did as far as being able to really move beyond the grief. And it doesn't mean that I don't grieve every day or that I don't wish that he wasn't here with me every day. I absolutely do. But I also see the importance of living larger than life and really just embracing life to the fullest. And recognizing that really allowed me to tie the title of my book into the whole book itself and show people that, as a grandma, I'm going out riding horses with my granddaughter now. I would have never considered doing that even before my son passed away. I had been off horses for like 30 years. I went skydiving for the first time at 52.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just so liberating. And I'm terrified of heights, but that day was just such a incredible journey for me. And it was a 5-hour drive to where I went skydiving. And he rode with me that day, and it was just me.
Mm-hmm.
I went by myself. I didn't want anybody with me. And it was really just about releasing all of that old baggage. And when I jumped from the plane that day, that really showed me that I was now living larger than life. And it really tied everything together. And so when I sat down to write my book, it was just such a beautiful emotional experience. And I honored him in ways that I didn't even know was possible. It was so much more than what I ever dreamed it could be.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like this has been an incredible journey to go on. And you mentioned that you, like a lot of aspiring authors, especially when we write from a place of grief, you have that start and stop of like, I want to, but then it's really hard. And so we stop. And then maybe we'll come back a couple months later and we'll start again. And then we stop. What was the moment where you were like, okay, now, and there's not going to be a stop anymore. It's forwards. What was that for you?
Again, when I stopped writing, I literally went 18 months where I didn't even open my manuscript. It was 18 months. I wrote about his last day and I closed those files and I literally couldn't open them for 18 months. When I finally knew I was ready, there was such a sense within me that my story was fully within me now. I don't know how else to explain it. Like, there were so many questions I had. There were so many fears that I had. When I finally was like, okay, I'm ready to tell my story, part of it was just I was in a much better place within myself. I have spent a lot of time working on my grief and working on, as a mom, being okay with living again. That's definitely a can of worms. But also just realizing that fear is only a roadblock. And there was so much fear of letting him down. There was so much fear of not honoring him in the way that I wanted to. There was so much fear in being scared about what people would say or think. And when I jumped out of the plane that day, like I said, that was for me the real turning point, because that was the day where I was like, nope, I can choose to live in that fear the rest of my life and be scared to push through it. Or I can get in that plane, scared of heights or not. I can go, I can jump out of that plane. I can fly at 200 miles an hour down with no parachute open yet. And I can do that with a smile on my face. And I choose to do that. I choose to push through that fear. And I think when I made that monumentous decision, it really changed my whole life, where I'm like, no, I can be scared of something, but for me now, when fear comes into my life, I step into it. I step forward. I refuse to step back anymore. Refuse to be scared, because I know when I come out on the end, it's so much better than anything I could have ever dreamed about.
So your trigger moment was literally jumping out of a plane. That's what you're telling me.
Absolutely. Yes.
I will say, Michelle, that's the first time I've heard that like go moment. Some people are like, oh, my kids told me that I should write a book. Or, I saw my mentor write a book. You're like, no, I had to jump out of a friggin' plane to write this book. And that is so cool. Like, if I can do that, I can do anything, right?
Absolutely.
It's incredible.
Absolutely.
Very, very cool. And it's sparked quite a transition in what the future is going to look like for you. And so, I have a two-part question. When you were writing the book, what kind of did you have supports in place outside of the writing process? Like, were you seeing a counselor, or did you have a coach or anything like to help you process some of the things that you were writing about?
I have done a lot of trauma healing. I have a number of different modalities myself. I have met some really close friends who have been through programs as well. And so I definitely leaned on them throughout this process. Um, if I had a bad day, I could, pick up the phone and give them a call. And, they would help me walk through if anything that I was stuck with. But in this situation, the amazing part was a lot of times when I talked to them, it was more, oh my God, look what I got accomplished today. Oh my God, look what oh my God, this came up. And just that reaffirming and having that conversation with somebody to say, I'm doing this. And there was only one day, literally, that I ran into a roadblock as I was writing. And I've done so much work on myself, and I'm so aware of the mind body connection. I'm so aware of how my body reacts to everything, how my nervous system reacts to everything with all the work I've done on myself, that I just stopped and I was like, okay, I'm done for today. I need to close my computer. I can't do any more today because I was stuck in that one spot. And I really, there was something internally within me that knew that if I stayed there and tried to push through it in that moment, that it was just going to cause me more grief than if I just closed my computer for the day, said, no, I'm done. That night I went home, and before I went to bed, I had a good discussion with my son. And I said, Devin, I said, Mom really needs help on this one. I said, I don't know how to get beyond this one point. I said, I really need you to help me. And so I went to bed that night, about 3 o'clock in the morning. I woke up, I was wide awake. I knew exactly in that moment where I needed to go with this. Needless to say, I didn't get much sleep after that night.
Mhm,
But I
mhm.
came into the office the next morning and I sat down and I just started writing again, and everything just flowed so effortlessly through me. It's, I feel like my experience was very original to me in that because it was such a personal book, because I was putting my raw emotions out there for the world to see, that I really embraced that. And like I said, I didn't allow myself to get caught up in the fear in that. And so if there was any struggles, more than going to my friends, it was more having that discussion with my son. It was about going out to the graveyard and sitting with him for a bit to get those answers that I was looking for. Because this project was really about me and him and no one else. And I really wanted to honor our relationship and really be able to make it the best that I could possibly do.
Ugh, I know. No, don't feel the silence because podcasts are boring when there's no one talking. But I just like, wow. I don't really know what else to say other than wow, because you're absolutely right. Everyone goes on their own journey. And I want to talk about your transition into the coaching space for aspiring authors. But as coaches, you and I, as a publisher, as an editor, we have to recognize that each person's journey is so different. And that is one of the reasons, like in our programs, we only do one-on-one. We don't do any group work because every author is different and every author needs space held in a different way and needs that space to breathe and to think and to cry. Like, I don't know how many sessions I've had with authors where they cry. And then at the end, and I'm sure you know this feeling, it's, oh, that felt good. Right? Like,
Yes,
oh, I needed that moment. Thank you. And as coaches, you and I, our number one job is to hold that space for them, to give them that
absolutely.
opportunity and to remind them that their journey doesn't have to look a certain way.
Yes.
And I think what you're describing is one of the most unique experiences that you can have. And it was kind of a loaded question because I have a lot of authors that might be in a similar situation to you, not exactly, of course, but they have a lot of, and sometimes a lot of unresolved trauma. And so the biggest recommendation, and sometimes I even like make it a condition of working together, is that they find someone outside of me to talk to, whether it is a friend. I prefer a trained coach or counselor or somebody, but what you have done is incredible. And what you're going to bring to your future authors is going to be unlike anything else because you have truly walked a road that very few people have. We're going to take a quick break and hop to a commercial, but in the back end of this conversation, you're not going to want to miss it because we hit on some really important topics for the authors. Hey, aspiring author. Have you been exploring the idea of adding a book to your business and creating a step in your funnel that moves you from the free offer to that high ticket program that you have? You need a low ticket offer. And I'm talking between $3 and $20 that your audience can consume on their term and is in a format that they trust. And who doesn't trust a good book? Now the trick becomes creating the content that actually converts into your high ticket offer. This is where Auth-Her comes in. At the heart of the Auth-Her event, we're helping aspiring authors with the basics. One is nailing down the art of writing that 5-star read. And we're creating the plan for how to make it successful. You can't just write a book. You have to market it. You have to know how to use it. You have to build it into your funnels. It's happening on March 18th. So secure your spot today. Head on down. You can click that link. It's right below here and prepare for a day of unparalleled inspiration and actionable insights. I'll see you there. Let's hop back into the conversation with Michelle and find out more about what it is that's tripping authors up and what's keeping them from getting published.
The process was very eye-opening for me as well. I think one of the big things where a lot of authors get caught up, and myself included initially when I started to write, was as you start writing, like especially when you're like, there's a lot of stuff in my book that I've never told anybody. So, that process of going through and writing some of that stuff. And initially, when I sat down to write, a lot of times I'd be like, oh, what's this person going to say? What's this person going to say? Oh, am I comfortable with this getting out there? Whereas once I really had my book figured out as far as what that was going to look like, I was able to sit down and I really went into it with a completely different mindset. I had to really back away from again, that fear of what everybody's going to think, what everybody's going to say, what everybody's going to do. What am I comfortable with writing about? Mine and my son's relationship. I go through and I talk about, I have 2 chapters about the last day and what that was like sitting in that hospital room with him. And it actually works out that it's chapter 1 and 3 in my book. And chapter 1 is kind of the first half of the day. And I struggled. I call that my nemesis chapter. In my initial manuscript, I sat down, I wrote it all out. I was fine with everything. I reread it multiple times before it ever went to the editor. And then once we started the editing process, the first editor that I sent a sample to, I got the first 5 pages back, and and I repeat, all of the emotion was taken out of it.
Oh.
And I just remember sitting at my desk and just having a total meltdown because I'm like, oh my God, she's not understanding me. This is not what I want. This is like, I can't do this, right? Like all of that stuff just blew up, bubbled up. And so I actually, went into panic mode as expected
Mm-hmm.
because this project is so important to me. And so then I found another editor, and she's actually from Australia. And when I sat down to work with her,
Is it Ruth?
I it is Ruth.
Love
She is
Ruth. Shout out to
Shout
Ruth.
out to Ruth. Absolutely. She is the most amazing woman that ever existed, in my opinion. And I sent her chapter 1 of my book. And she wanted, again, do a sample edit. We had an online Zoom. I talked to her, about what my absolute fear was after going through that experience. And so she took it and she edited chapter 1, and I got it back and I'm reading. And the majority of it, I was like, ooh, that's good. I like that. I like the changes that she made. And then I got to this one spot, and I had written it more in paragraph form. And for me, she wouldn't understand the monumental meaning behind it. But that last day, my son had a single tear roll down his cheek. Hmm. And so when I wrote it, I was just like, the tear represented da 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 da, the tear represented, but I wrote it in paragraph format. So when she edited it, she took out some of that repetition. And so when I was reading that first edit back, I was like, oh my God, nope, 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 nope. Like, nope, she doesn't understand. But again, I stepped through the fear in that moment. And I'm like, okay, she doesn't know my full story. She doesn't know the importance of this paragraph in my mind. And so it really forced me, as well as an author, to step out of my comfort zone and have my voice be heard. At the end of the day, this is my project, and I need to ensure that my vision is going, even through the editing process, through every process. By the time that book comes out, it has to be your emotion on that paper. And so we got onto another call, and I explained to her where I was coming from. She's like, oh, okay. And she understood it. And so she changed it up, and we kind of put it into paragraph format, or sorry, into like a poem format. And it, and I, in that moment, I was like, Ruth, you are the queen. You are my person.
Yeah.
and, and so I chose Ruth as my editor. And it was probably not until about chapter 3 or 4 where she got a hold of me one night and she's like, Michelle, I get it. She goes, she had never edited a book with the level of emotion in it, with the type of story in it that I was writing. And it was finding that perfect person who is going to understand me, who is going to go into my head and understand what I was trying to portray in that book. And after that, the process just went seamlessly for both of us, because once she understood where I was coming from as an author, as a mom, the fears that I had in having this book represent so many different areas of my life, it was just such an amazing experience.
Mhm.
And like I said, it could have been totally opposite if I hadn't found that right person.
I think that's a really important thing to note. And I'm going to pull it out and highlight it on this episode because editors are subjective opinions of what they think should be happening. They are one opinion. Yes, they may have edited multiple books and multiple genres and all that, but it's still one opinion. Like I know in our program, so Ruth, shout out to Ruth again, she is my go-to editor for all of the books that we publish. But I also edit the books. So when authors come to work with us in our publishing house, they get my opinion and then it goes to Ruth and they get her opinion. And then, but it's always that conversation of like, take it or leave it. Does this feel
Yes.
good? And even in the coaching space, and you'll probably find this too when you start bringing on the authors, is that you'll make these recommendations because they come to you. Authors are looking to you for your experience and your expertise, and they put a lot of authority in what you're going to say. But we have to like kind of check our egos at the door and be, we are not always right. It is our opinion of what
Absolutely.
this book, a shape this book could take. And so when we partner with our authors, one of my favorite lines, and I probably say it like 4 or 5 times per one-on-one session, is, how does that feel? Like, hey,
Yes.
here's a suggestion. How's that feel for you? And then silence. And you just leave that space for that author to think about it, to really feel. It's not think, it's feel about it, right? It's feel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. That's very cool. And every editor I've ever worked with, every project I've ever sent, when I go to the author, because I'm the middleman, right? Ruth will send me the manuscript and I'll send it to the author. I'll be like, take it or leave it. These are suggestions, unless it's spelling and grammar. Then we're a little
Yes.
different. But that developmental editing that you're talking about, that is truly one person's opinion. And you, as the author, have to be okay with it. And you have to come from a place of strength to say, I don't like this. Can we talk about it?
And I think as a woman, as a female, when you've been through a lot of trauma, a lot of us back up. A lot of us, you know, like it took so much courage for me, one, to write the book, but then it's the next step is to really stand in my power and say, no, I'm not okay with that. Like, this is why. But it's not just saying no, it was a matter of explaining where my head was at so that she could understand.
Mhm.
Because I'm like, how can anybody understand unless they've one lost a child? But nobody can fully understand that journey and what it looked like for you. And because my book was so personal, because it was so raw, because there was so much pressure I had on myself of what I wanted that to look like, I, as a person, had to dig so deep because I said in the past, and honestly, any other book that I write will never have the pressure on me that that did. Any other book, I probably would have went, yeah, you're the expert. I'm fine with that.
Mhm.
But in this situation, it was really finding my voice and stepping out of that trauma that I've experienced in life and really stepping into my power and saying, no, like we can't change that way because that doesn't work for me. But here is why that doesn't work for me.
Mhm.
Because at the same time, you can't your editor is giving their best advice in the moment. But I had had one conversation with her at that time, right? I mean, now it's funny because, yeah, she would know exactly where my head was at because she spent so much time in there as we went through that process.
Mhm.
And as an author, it's really don't accept things that you're not comfortable with, I think is the biggest point that I want to make to writers is
Mhm.
that at the end of the day, and we can be triggered by it. And a lot of people, when you're triggered, you just want to shut down.
Yeah.
But that's when you really need to step up and just own your own work and say, this is why I need it to be this.
Yeah, it's incredibly important. And this is why I love hybrid publishing, to be honest. Of like the role that you and I play in the publishing process is because my company's motto is putting the power back in authors' hands. I don't have final say over anything my authors publish. I don't own the distribution rights. I haven't paid them. I didn't buy anything. It's their work. And that is how the
Absolutely.
publishing industry should exist. And it
Absolutely.
and when I could go forever on traditional publishing and vanity press, the opposite sides of hybrid, but the power needs to be in the author's hands, and the author needs to feel that that is true from us.
Absolutely.
Every conversation that we have with them is like, okay, let's check in with you. It's my opinion. I have some significant experience and research and things like that, but that doesn't mean I'm right. It doesn't.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think if you ever, like, for those of you that are listening, if you are talking to coaches that are like, you're wrong, no. That is a bad direction to go in, because you will end up producing a book that you don't love.
Yes. That's a major red flag.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. And that's just it. I fully agree with you. The importance of the author. I mean, to me, the author has a vision when they come in. And it's we can guide them, we can transition them to get it to where, it's a best-selling book. However, at the end of the day, it still has to be what they envisioned,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when I was even looking at publishing, the reason I went the path that I did is because I was so terrified of someone trying to change the name of my book.
Mm.
And I knew that, I don't know why, I just knew that that had to be the name of the book, but I didn't know why at the time. I didn't know why I was so adamant on that, except the fact that Devin lived larger than life. And when when I went through that process, it was important for me to make sure that, like I said, that dream, as an author, we all have a dream of what our book is going to look like, what it's going to feel like, what it's going to portray to our readers. And it's really allowing yourself to find a publisher that's going to honor you in that process, guide you, coach you, but don't change you.
Mm-hmm. Bring out the best in you, right? We are,
Absolutely.
as a publisher, I am their amplifier. That is my,
Yes,
yeah, absolutely.
I
I love
agree.
that.
Same here.
Yeah. Okay, Michelle, thank you so much. I think you already gave some really tangible advice about not accepting something that you're not happy with. And I think you're bang on. Women stand up for what you want. But what advice, I'm going to ask it again because I ask at the end of every episode. What advice do you have for aspiring authors?
My best advice is don't let the fear take over. Like, so many people don't write their book because they allow the fear to step in. Push through it, no matter what it takes, push through it, because the absolute change that you will see in your own life because of that is so worth it. Have your voice be heard. Scream from the rooftops like, this is me. Take it or leave it. Here I am.
Mhm.
And honor yourself in that process because you deserve it.
I love that. Thank you. So as you move into book coaching and you start taking on all these amazing authors, how can people reach you?
They can reach me. My web address is www.largerthanlifepublishing.com. Um, yes,
Sorry,
I
I
did
made a
go.
face because, I love that.
Um, and they can also reach me at Michelle at largerthanlifepublishing.com is my email.
Okay,
And
awesome.
I will also, when we're recording this, it's not set up yet. However, by the time this is released, I will have also a Facebook page, Larger Than Life Publishing, as well.
Wonderful. So you can go, we'll make sure all those links are in the show notes, so that you can find a way to easily reach Michelle. And you do have a special offer for listeners as well, right?
Yes, I do. I am actually going to be offering a 30% discount if you reference this podcast. I will give you a 30% discount on coaching services.
Woo, that is a stellar offer. I'm going to throw that in all over the place. So yes, I support you wholly. I firmly believe in learning from people who have done what we want to do. And Michelle, you have done what a lot of people want to do. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
It was wonderful having you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of I Wrote That. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to our show so you don't miss any of our upcoming guests. And if this has led you to some inspiration to want to get started on your own authorship journey, whether you just have an idea or you have a manuscript that you're ready to publish, reach out to us at nextpagepublishing.net, and we will match you up with our team of experts to make the journey simple, easy, and smooth.